I suppose that most of you have read the book, but I say some words about the book, and I say the following things, and then it ends up with a question. Rose is a psychoanalyst living in the inner city of Paris, who as a Christmas present receives a cruise with her children on the Mediterranean. Somewhere out on the cold December sea, the cruise ship encounters boat refugees who are rescued by the crew while waiting for the Italian Coast Guard. Rose heads down to the deck where migrants are held and meet Younès from Niger, who asks her for a cell phone. On a whim, Rose gives him her son's cell phone. This mobile phone then becomes a kind of lifeline between Rose and Younès. Rose is about to move to the Basque country of her childhood, while Younès is on his way to Calais in order to get to England from there. Rose is faced with a series of questions and standpoints. Does it help to help? Is a single contribution enough? What does her life look like? Is she really satisfied with her life? What will her family say? What does an everyday hero look like? Based on this question, the novel Avvikt hav, The Wayward Sea, was born. A novel about one of the most burning political issues of our time. And now I have my question, the first one. If there are any political conclusions in your novel, which are they?
I write novels because I don't have any political conclusions, in fact. I write novels because I write novels to be able to think, because I don't have a political head. I'm not very good at theory or at... I need to write and to tell stories to understand the world better, and I hope to share these stories with you, putting you always... All my characters are... Rose is not a hero, Rose is not a committed woman, Rose is not even... she's not ready at all to have a refugee at home, for example. She doesn't want that, she's very scared of that. But the book, the story, the boats will slowly lead her where she doesn't want to go, because the planet is this way and we inhabit this planet. And if I have a political thinking, it's that if we were on Mars and we were looking at our planet, we would wonder, why does this people from Earth have a right to inhabit the planet, and why do these other people from Earth don't have the right to inhabit the same planet? How do we share inhabitants? And it's completely absurd, seen from Mars. So Rose is a very... What I like when I write stories is really to tell our day-to-day life, we middle people of Europe. I mean, Rose has a job, the job is not well paid enough, she's a psychologist in Paris, she belongs to this like upper middle class that cannot afford Paris anymore. They live in a very small apartment with 2 kids, the kids share the same little room. Her husband is a real estate agent. And Paris is going crazy, like many European capitals, about real estate. And these 2 people are already having a bad time inhabiting Paris. It's too expensive. So they are thinking of going back to their homeland, Basque country, where I was born, which is very expensive too, etc., etc. So they have very day-to-day problems. And when Rose comes back from work, tired, she has to help the children do their homework and find the lost notebook of the daughter and see that her husband has drinking too much again because he has problems at work, etc. She's not ready at all to help a refugee. It's out of the context. But the context is where she lives. So when she goes on a holiday on that cruise to relax, bam, it doesn't work this way. And when my mother is this sort of she's a teacher. She's now is in her 80s. She's very well healthy, and of course she's the typical public who go on those cruises. You know, those cruises are luxury, fake luxury, made for the middle class, European middle class. So she told me, come, it's great. The kids will love it, etc. So because I write novels, I thought I should go to sea. You know, my kids were so happy. Because for once we didn't go to museums, we didn't go to theaters, they didn't even have to read books. They had to go to nightclubs and eat pizza and hamburgers, etc. So they were so happy. And the cruise boat went along Lampedusa. I thought Lampedusa. The very name of what was happening, of the very symbol of the mass migration. And I thought, what would happen if a little boat was there? That's how the novel started. And this story of the phone, because Younès, as you told the story, his phone, so Younès is about 16, 17. You never really know his age, and because it's a big issue, the age of the refugee, because they have rights under 18 in France and elsewhere, and not over 18. And so his phone has taken water. His phone is humid and it's broken, and it's a disaster. A phone for them. I've been working with a lot of refugees, a bit everywhere. In fact, a phone is it's almost a key to open a door. It's the beginning of inhabiting. If they lose the phone, they are absolutely naked on the planet. So it's a disaster. His phone doesn't work anymore. And she understands. And what does she do? She goes to the cabin and she takes her son's phone. Not her phone, her son's phone. Why not her? Because her is too important. The son, of course, a part of the novel is, I hope, a bit comic. Because the son, who is 15, is living a nightmare. He cannot find his phone anymore. And during all the book he's searching for his phone. And the mother doesn't know. My son told me, did you do that to me? I leave the house. Well, anyway, so in our day-to-day life, there are some situations that it can also be very funny. It's bizarre, but a lot of refugees told me in a very humorous tone their odyssey. I remember a guy from Niger who told me how he crossed the Sahara disguised as an old woman. And it was so funny under his veil, and their humor is very often what they have left, to make their tragedy funny. It's something that's very hard to receive for us, but I met a lot of refugees who are really funny people because it's what they have. So anyway, the book was born out of all this mess.
But maybe one can say that to some extent what you are describing now is some kind of political point of view. That means that there's a way of asking yourself, where can people live, or how can people coexist together? Because there is, after all, something is driving the mother to give something to this person that is in danger. How is the political situation in France? I mean, as we both know very well, the discussion about immigrants in France is a very important discussion. And you have the tendency, very clear cut, by a woman like Marie Le Pen, to make a clear separation between the French population and the people not belonging to Europe. In what extent are you touched, or is this not, after all, some kind of important statement in relation to this French situation?
It is, but I'm not totally utopian or idealist. For example, when I was working in Calais with refugees and mostly listening to them, to their stories, I also had discussions with young people, mostly English young people from the movement No Borders or A World Without Border. And of course I would love a world without borders, but it's not that easy. But I admire those young people who are really dedicated to change everything. I'm more like Rose. I don't have a set of ideas ready, to fit any situation, and I can't blame people who vote for Marine Le Pen. Of course, I woke up last night at 4 a.m. and I thought, in 4 years she will be the president. She will be the president, and it was like a nightmare. How can we avoid that? How can we avoid that? Certainly not by despising or yelling at the people who vote for her. We should try to understand more why they vote for her, etc. In my family, there are people who vote for her, and not necessarily old people, now young people too. And it's a disaster, but I have no miracle solution. All I can do is to propose stories and novels, and sometimes they are adapted for cinema too, so it can reach a wider public, perhaps, or on TV. But I can propose stories, and one part of my job is to tell the stories of the refugees, showing that they are normal people. An example that I like very much is that when I was in Calais, I was discussing with a woman called Sylvie. Sylvie was an ex-employee of the post office and in Calais. A woman in her 60s, living alone, and she had one spare room. She was in Calais, and for her that was obvious to receive young people, to give them shelter. It's cold in Calais. And at some point she could have 12 young people in her room on mattresses. And I thought, so how do you do for cooking? How do you do to feed them? So she would explain me, they had to put some coins in a box and to participate to the food, etc. She told me, food is nothing. Food is okay. Food is cheap, in fact. The problem is the shower. So, well, she said, they are all teenagers, old boys. There's no one who would think about mopping the ground after having the shower. It's always, I have to do it. I yell at them, can't you mop after you showered? What did your mother do in your country? Well, she would mop. Well, I'm not your maid, etc. And it is very, very, it's a day-to-day life. I like that. When you receive somebody home, you have to live with that person, and it comes back to the shower and to who is going to do the errands for the food, and now it's time to go to bed, midnight. I love that. It's already a novel. And I had once a kid home, and was a kid from Mali at that time. What was difficult at that time to do is that my son was very jealous of the attention I gave to the young boy from Mali. And my daughter, who was much smaller, was on the contrary in total admiration for this young boy from abroad, and they kept in contact. But my son really did not like him at all. So you have to deal with all this. So I don't have any solution. It's exhausting to have a refugee home. It's exhausting because you have to deal with somebody you don't know, who doesn't have the same rhythm, the same culture, etc. So. The solution is not to receive them at home. We don't have to do that. It's too complex. The states should organize a hospitality that would avoid us to have wars, conflicts, and the right extreme president in 5 years or here, I don't know. But we should organize. They are coming anyway. They are coming because it's unbearable to live there. It's too hot, you don't have food enough. It's not only war, it's just, I've been traveling a lot and they have no future. The future, I talk to the boys especially, because the boys are migrating more than the girls for many reasons, of course. And they just want to have a job and a family, and they can't there. And it's a huge planetary problem. So Yeah, so I write novels.
Yeah. I agree, of course, with what you are saying. But maybe the fact that you are writing novels in the way you do is some kind of description that makes it possible for people to feel their present differently. Not finding solutions, not having any kind of political solutions for everybody or for a country, or idealizing them in a way that is just destructive, but having a description that you describe their character, their way of being, and the confrontation between different cultures make us also have a greater possibility to integrate them in another way.
Yeah.
And that is very important. That is essential for everybody. And the reaction, I agree also with that. We have to understand why political point of view that we don't share are so appreciated by so many people. In Sweden last year it was around in September this year or more. I can count it differently, but at least 20%. And you have to understand why are they reacting the way they do. This has to be understood. But let me, because time is just running away, the question that I am very interested in, as you know, is that Rose is working as a psychologist in Paris. And as you said, it's not that very easy to work as a psychologist today in Paris. The economical situation is completely exhausting.
Yes, they are badly paid, and when they are in this public system, and they have a lot of teenagers, and that was written before the pandemic. Yeah. But there are too many patients, and it's a hard
and they are very complicated, many of their patients.
Yes.
And you yourself have been into analysis, and you have even practicing as a psychoanalyst. What would you say about the relationship with your analytical experience and your writing? What kind of difference?
It's a long story, psychoanalysis in my life, and the presence of the unconscious in my life. I dream a lot, maybe because I'm an insomniac, and when I fall asleep, I stay very long in that zone called, the hypnagogic zone, where Kafka wrote all of his diary. You're never fully asleep. You're aware that you are not asleep. It's exhausting. In a way, you sleep, but very lightly, and you always wake up. And the dreams are so present that they are sometimes very, very close to almost hallucination. And my last book in France is an essay about insomnia. It's not published yet. I haven't launched it, but it will. So I dream a lot. I'm in contact with my dreams. They never directly give me ideas. For example, I never directly wrote a dream. And there's this famous saying by Henry James: "Tell a dream, lose a reader," because dreams. When you're not practicing psychoanalysis, when somebody tells you a dream, in the morning, in your family, it's so boring in general. It's too long anyway. So I never took directly inspiration from my dreams, but this state of mind, very floating, very porous to the world in a way, where you rethink about why not Marine Le Pen, and it gives you in a way a sort of vision from Mars. It gives you, I don't know, everything is both more tragic and less tragic. It's a different way of seeing the world. And when I go back to me in the morning, and when I try to wake up, to have coffee and to write, I know that what I'm trying to do consciously, it's to propose you a little window from where perhaps you had no idea of looking. The window is there in your mind, like you're living the same house for a number of years, and your house in your brain has many windows, but perhaps this little window near the roof you had no time or no idea to open it and look. And my novels are there if you want. I would like to open a new little window in your mind so that you can have a look the other way around, or I don't know. It's both very ambitious and very modest also, because it's a small window. But if I could, yeah, please open it, you know. So it takes time to read a book, and it takes time to open that window. But for example, the husband, the character of the husband, Christian, who is a real estate agent. He's a real estate agent because that profession is fascinating to me. He has the keys of your next apartment. And I love this job where all day long he shows you your possible next apartment. Is it for you or not? And I interviewed a lot of refugees, but I also interviewed a lot of real estate agents because they have those crazy stories to tell. An apartment when a crime has occurred. How can you sell or rent this apartment? Do you say that there was somebody murdered there or not? Haunted houses. Plenty of stories of ghosts, you know. So, oh yeah, please tell me more. So, and the question, Christian, the husband, could be somebody who voted for Le Pen. He could be. He drinks too much, perhaps because he's so alcoholic. He cannot go to the election, you know, vote, and he doesn't vote in the end for Marine Le Pen. I don't know, but he's terrified at the state of the world. And when Rose tells him that they are going to have a refugee home, he doesn't want that. I mean, well, no. But in a way, he does his best too, in his way, because he's very interested in why and where do people inhabit, and why, after all, is Younès not allowed to inhabit anywhere, and I like this character of Christian very much. There's a movie is going to be made out of the book in France, and we are, not me, but the team is trying to cast an actor for this character, and I have a very. We are still looking for him.
Still looking for him. I read briefly your book about insomnia.
Oh.
Last time in Paris, and the question of sleeping or not sleeping is an issue for you.
Oh yeah.
It has been.
And
the book is, I would say there are a lot of humor in that book.
I hope so.
Yeah, it is. It is. I am convinced. And the question of alcohol is also.
Yes, because when you don't sleep, you are so tired in the day that you trying to find energy around 6 o'clock, you know, p.m. and you have a glass of wine, of course, and 2 and 3, and you feel much better. And then at midnight you cannot sleep at all, or if you can sleep, you wake up at 4. It's a disaster. No, a lot of insomniac are very prone to addictions, more than the people who sleep very well.
But these issues are also to some extent related to your psychological praxis or your experience of psychoanalysis.
Yes, yes, I suppose. You mustn't fall asleep when you listen to your patients.
No.
That's the first rule. No, it's I had insomnia as for example, in Calais again. I remember.
For how long time did you stay in Calais?
In Calais, like a week, not more.
Oh,
In fact, I was in Niger. The starting point of the migration
Yes.
of all West Africa goes through Niger, because it's from there that they try to cross the Sahara, and then the sea, of course. And I stayed longer in Niger than in Calais. I don't know. Calais was only 1 hour from Paris, and it scared me a lot. It scared me more than Niger. It was too close. I don't know. I knew, in fact, that
Niger
once.
is a dangerous country.
It is. It was. I only stayed in the capital because, it's a long story.
Tell us.
No, because in the capital of Niger, called Niamey, at that time when I was there in 2014, Libya and Algeria, with agreement of Europe called Frontex, would gather all their refugees and bring them back through the Sahara in awful conditions in trucks and put them in Niamey when they had nothing to do. There were people from Cameroon, from all the coast, from Ghana, from Nigeria, there were people from a green Africa, from a humid Africa, just there in the desert in Niamey. And in Niamey there's nothing. It's one of the poorest places on earth. And they called themselves the stranded, les échoués, the stranded. So I talked with them a lot. It was quite hard, but some of them had humor. And Calais was so close, and I knew, from Niger you can fly back home in Paris. From Calais you can never really fly back. It's too close. And in Paris I knew that as soon as I was going to do conversations with migrants and refugees in France, I would get involved. Too much committed.
Too committed.
Yeah, and it's anyway, it's a long story. But yeah, I was amazed in Calais to see that all those young guys, they would sleep. In fact, young people, they sleep. Whatever happened, they sleep. Teenagers sleep. And I would come back to my very chic hotel on the harbour, l'Hôtel Méridien, and I would wake up at 3:00 in the morning, in my luxurious queen-size bed and with the heating on and etc. And I would look out of the window, and they were sleeping outside in what was called the jungle at that time. And in fact, my book about insomnia started there. I was ashamed not to sleep while they were sleeping outside in the cold. A shame. Yeah.
I see.
Yeah, the shame for me was there.
The very privileged one cannot sleep,
yes,
and the people who are really suffering in a catastrophic situation are capable of sleep.
Yes, there was some. To me, there is a mystery there. A mystery. Yeah, it's not only that they were young. Perhaps they really needed to sleep to escape, or perhaps they were really tired, and I was not really. It's anyway, another book.
Another book. Yeah. I thought about one thing. I read in the morning a passage from a group Psychology and Analysis of the Ego, where Freud is writing the following: the contrast between individual psychology and social or group psychology, which at the first glance may seem to be full of significance, loses a great deal of its sharpness when it is examined more closely. And I've read that. Mm-hmm. I thought about your book. Mm-hmm. It is that the difference between the character in the book and the social problem is to some extent eliminated, in the meaning that you are in your book describing through the personalities the situation that we are living.
Mm-hmm. I hope so.
And this is a very good sign to me of the book. It is like at the same time the difference between the individual and the social problems are eliminated in your book. I think it's very beautiful.
Thank you.
I think you do it very well. And I think also, like you said before, which is important, it is not a political statement in the book, but the book is, after all, a very political one.
Yes, I hope so. But in my way, yes.
In your way.
I'm not there to give lessons, or I don't know.
Exactly.
I really don't know. I'm here to express that I don't know, and that I would like to know more and to understand more. Mm.
We are tired of all these lessons. Also.
Yes, perhaps.
I've been given too much lessons, and they have not been so very convenient.
Mm.
The time is over, and thank you very much.
Thank you,
Marie. Och så vet ni, om ni som vill köpa boken, signeras boken utav Marie Darrieussecq. Och vi har, och jag vill säga en sak innan ni går, som är väldigt viktig. Översättningen är eminent. Och det är inte, som jag säger, utan någon form av vänlighet. Den är absolut fantastisk. Och översätterskan är här. Hon har gjort ett strålande arbete. Och